The next bill on the agenda is House File 789, so I will move that House File 789 be recommended to be placed on the general register. Representative Becker-Finn, would you like me to move the A1 amendment?
Yes, please, Chair.
Okay, is there any discussion to the A1 amendment? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, the amendment is adopted. The bill is in the shape you would like. To your bill, Chair Becker-Finn.
All right. Thank you, Chair Freiberg. So this is the second year we've brought this bill forward. It was previously carried by Majority Leader Long, but I have now carrying this mantle. So you may or may not know, when you filed for office, there was an ability to keep your home address private. If you had filed a police report or if you had an order for protection. What this bill does is extends that ability if a candidate has a reasonable fear in regard to their safety. So this is specifically having to do with the personal safety of folks running for office. To ground us in why this bill came forward and why we started working on this, I just want to remind folks, that we live in a post-January 6th world. We know what groups of people are capable of, and we know that sometimes elected officials are personally targeted. In addition to that, around the same time, maybe folks don't know about that this happened, but around the same time as January 6th, we actually had armed crowds of people showing up unannounced at the personal homes of some of the people we serve with. Was very unsettling and scary for those families. Many of them had children who lived in those homes, and there were further threats for folks to show up at other people's homes as well, including my own. In addition, I'm actually curious. I don't know. I mean, I guess we've got some newer members, but others may not be aware that for some of us, threats against our personal safety by the public because of this job that we do are very common. Particularly for folks who come from marginalized communities, particularly right now, our queer friends and allies and folks that we serve with are getting death threats on the daily. We have members of of the legislature who don't feel safe bringing their children here, who want to make sure that their families are protected. Now, we know that we don't get paid very much to do this job. It is public service, and so this bill is in recognition of the least that we can do is do what we can to keep folks safe in their homes. Obviously, we come into this building every day. We can be found and are accountable to, I've had groups of angry people outside my office here, and that would be the appropriate way for the public to reach us and get our attention, and that would still remain an option in these buildings and spaces. But recognizing that as a part-time legislature, citizen legislature who doesn't have access to security services the way that someone maybe in Congress would have, that the least we can do is try to keep people's home addresses private if they do have that reasonable fear for their safety. So that's what the bill does. It just includes that you wouldn't have to actually go through the process of getting an order for protection or filing a police report if you do have that reasonable fear. The amendment was at the request and suggestion of the Secretary of State's office to just make it really clear that there's still a way that they can double check to make sure we know that that residency is accurate. So that's the bill, and happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Chair Becker-Finn. No testifiers have signed up. Are there any members of the public who wish to speak on this bill? Okay, seeing none, we can turn to member discussion. Representative Bonner.
Thanks. Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Chair Becker-Finn. I just want to say thank you for this bill. I will tell you, I personally have had threats telling me that folks are coming me with a meme of someone pointing a barrel of a gun. This is when I first came into office. I don't think I had barely been in office, but a few weeks. I hadn't even had time to do anything to irritate anyone. But I pride myself on being a really reasonable, thoughtful legislator in a purple district. And a year or so ago, as you mentioned, with folks coming around with armed individuals with flags and bullhorns and the whole bit, And they had gone to several legislators' houses, and for some reason, which I have yet to figure out, they put me on their potential list. I remember having to work with our local law enforcement and thinking really hard about how that was going to impact my neighbors. Now, I do this job every day, and I am more than happy to face the scrutiny. I signed up for this. I'm willing and ready and able, and I think we all are. You know, but at that same token, I have next door to me 2 little children. On the other side of me, I have 3 young boys, one of whom has various disabilities, and he does not do well with a lot of chaos or loud noise. He gets very upset. I have an 80-year-old woman and my elderly neighbors who all meet at the end of my driveway every morning to go walking. That 80-year-old neighbor has the beginning stages of dementia. I remember sitting there feeling really nervous about a group of armed people showing up in front of my house with my 80-year-old neighbor with the beginning stages of dementia walking into this, being scared and frightened. The child across the road from me being scared and frightened. I don't think that my neighbors signed up for that. I don't think that's fair. And it's only been in the last few years that we've seen this trend where folks are actively going to people's homes. We saw Representative Lucero put a bill before us to suggest that we'd be able to use campaign funds to get security measures in our homes. Not going to lie, I've been thinking about it. And I think it is sad that we are in a place that we should have to hide where we live as elected officials. I'm proud of my job. I am proud to serve this state. I have no problem with my neighbors knowing where I live. But when we have some of the threats that we've been experiencing in the last few years, I think this bill is absolutely necessary. And it is a step that we need to take to protect not necessarily ourselves, although I know that some folks who have children definitely do, but also just our neighbors, our neighborhoods. And I think they did not sign up for that. It is not fair to ask them to put up with that. And so I really appreciate this bill, and I want to thank you for bringing it forward.
Thank you, Representative Bonner. Representative Quam.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I want the public to, the author in her opening seemed to indicate more of one side, or it's only certain groups, or it's just recently, because frankly, when I was a freshman, there were, even in the Capitol, a mob came and confronted me. Sergeant of Arms person started to approach. I waved him off, and I engaged, because personally, I don't think you show a mob that they can intimidate or prevent you from doing something, showing them that they're powerless. But I also know someone, a current member that was elected about 10 years ago, and his first run, 300 people showed up in front of his house in his neighborhood, and the neighbors were really concerned, and rightfully so. That's a scary thing. So I think the option of protecting your residence and your home address is very prudent. I wish that people hadn't given out the address of the Supreme Court justices. So the courts should also be given this discretion if they choose. Because no matter how we personally stand up, aren't intimidated, we have families, neighborhoods, communities that they should not, suffer. So I support the intent. I know there have been efforts in the past to do things to help on this issue, but I just want to make clear for the public that this is not one group, one side. It's a universal problem that's been around for a bit of time. Maybe it gets bolder some years, but I'm going to support this, as we all should.
Thank you, Representative Kwong.
Chair.
Yeah, Chair Becker Finn.
Thank you. Just wanted to respond. I just want to be clear. I never stated at all that in any way that this is partisan or only one side. I assume that none of us in this room were supportive of the insurrection that occurred on January 6th. So there's no partisan intent implied or stated. So I just want to make sure that's really clear.
Thank you, Chair Becker Finn. Representative Torkelson.
Thank you. Thank you for bringing this bill forward. I think we all, or at least most of us, certainly understand that our private lives should have some protection. I just want to make sure I fully understand the amendment and the purpose of the amendment and just exactly how the mechanics of the amendment work, just to make that clear for all of us since it's new to the bill.
Chair Becker Finn.
Thank you. So again, this was language that the Secretary of State wanted to make sure that they would be able to double check, to make sure that we don't have people filing for office who don't live in their districts. And so the way that this would work is if you were choosing to do this, to use this exception to not have your private address, you would fill out an affidavit that would still have your address on it, but that would remain private. And what this is doing is requiring that within one business day of receiving the filing, a staff person from the Secretary of State's office would still verify that that address is in the district where the person has filed to run. So it's actually making sure, they wanted to make sure they can double check so people have faith in the fact that people actually live in their districts where they're filing.
Lead Torkelson.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chair. And I appreciate that and I understand the purpose, but isn't that already part of the system? Isn't there an option to fill out an affidavit?
Chair Becker Finn.
I think I've got somebody from, I've got the Secretary of State's right here, but I don't know.
I was hoping I'd get the real secretary, Mr. Chair, once.
The Secretary has
He's
exceptional staff.
He's got it.
He's avoiding me, I think.
Welcome to the committee. Please identify yourself for the record and respond to the question.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Nicole Freeman, Office of the Secretary of State. So currently, state law allows, at the request of another voter or another individual, allows the option for the filing officer to check the address, but does not currently require the filing officer to confirm that the address is within the district the person is filing for if they've marked the address private. So this would make that a requirement.
Lead Torkelson.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Seeing no additional members seeking to be recognized, Chair Becker Finn, any closing remarks?
Yeah, thank you, Chair, and thank you, members, for your support. I just want to say too, there's scrutiny, and then there's our personal safety, and whether you live alone or have children or have neighbors who would be impacted, the reality is that none of us, we signed up for this job. We did not sign up to put our personal safety at risk, and that I don't want to see a world where we have folks not filing for office because they are concerned about their personal safety. And again, I signed up to serve my community. I did not sign up to put my children and my home at risk of violence or any other harm. And I think that's true of all of us. So really appreciate the support and the discussion. I think this is an important and simple thing that we can do. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Becker Finn. With that, I will renew the motion that House File 789 as amended be recommended to be placed on the general register. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.